algebra tile multiplication of this binomial expression with another binomial expression is we need to make sure in our minds we understand that one represents length and the other represents width. Okay, so we have length times width. And when we just multiply this out, we have to distribute. So when we distribute, we have to make sure that every term in this bracket multiplies every term in this bracket, because everything on here interacts with everything in here. Okay, so we do this with something called FOIL. We multiply the first, so 2x squared. Always rest the FOIL stands for, I'll write it over here, FOIL, first, outside, inside, last. So we multiply the outside terms, so we end up with plus 4x. Be careful of the algebra. We need to know when we're dealing with x squareds versus x's. I represents inside, so x, and then last represents the two last terms. Okay, so it looks like this. So why do they interact in this way, and why do we have to show our multiplication like that? Is when we show the algebra tiles, it becomes a little bit more clear, because when we have our length and width, I'm going to have two x's along here and 1. Okay, and along the vertical, I'm going to have 1x and 2 1's. And to generate area, we can see that these two x's interact with both the x here and the 2 here, which shows our first and outside distribution. So when I show the product, I can see that the product is going to be first 2x times x. Okay. The outside is going to give us 4x's. So the 4x's are generated here. 1x, 2x of area. There's my 4x's of area. Okay, so there's my first inside, first outside, and then the inside is going to be the 1 here, interacts with both the x and the plus 2. And we can see that in the area, yeah, it interacts with this edge length of x and this edge length of 2. And we're going to have, that's going to be our inside. 1 times x gives us the 1x here, and then the 2 times 1 gives us the 2 1's over here. So when we put this together, we want to combine like terms, so this ends up being 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. And it's really important to understand that this middle term is been grouped together as like terms. And this is grouped together as addition. So we add to get the middle term. And when we undo this multiplication or factor these, this is going to be the key, is understanding how do we ungroup the 5. And how did we get the 5? We got it with a group of 4 and a group of 1. And that's important to understand how we undo that 5, because that tells us essentially our shape, because depending on how we rearrange these tiles, okay, it's going to give us a different shape or different factors. So we have 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. Okay. If you have tiles with you, you should just play around with this. So pause the video and you can kind of think about how we can rearrange this into rectangle to get length and width. And I'm going to just start you off here because there is some things that are kind of constraining this, in that we have our 2x squares. Really, to get a rectangle, we kind of have, there's not too many different ways we can arrange the 2x squares. We have to just kind of line them up together. Okay, and again, there's some limitations to that 1. We can't put that 1 here, okay, because it doesn't have a common edge of x. We can't line it up with any of these x's. There's only really, we kind of have to put the 1 somewhere else. Okay, so you can play around with this, pause and play around with it, and see if you can get the same answer I do. Okay, so the only place I can put this 1, because I cannot line it up with any of the x edges, is over here. That's kind of the only place that that 1 can go. And that naturally then doesn't allow us to have much choice. Well, there's not much we can do with the 3x's. There's only space for the 3x's. One along here, because we have to line up our edge length with the x. We have to line up this edge length with the x. And that takes up 2 of our x's. And our third x has to go over here to fill in this space. Now we have a rectangle. And now that we have the rectangle, we can write our length here. We have a length of x, x, and 1. That's 2x plus 1. And along here we have x and 1. So that just becomes x plus 1. So we can then say that the length times width equals area. And our length and width are going to be expressed as 2x plus 1, x plus 1. I put it in brackets to show that they are factors. And when I multiply these together, I get the area of 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. Because remember that the algebra tiles here all represent area.